Okay, good morning or good afternoon, everybody, depending on where you're at today. Just wanted to welcome everybody. My name is Anthony Jablonski, and I'm the Senior Manager here in the Risk Assessment and Mitigation Group here at Reliability First. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Align Refresher and the Inherent Risk Assessment training today. So thank you all for joining. As a couple housekeeping items, we will be recording this webinar for the purposes of posting on our website as a training resource, after we conduct this training. I ask everyone to put yourselves on mute, and if you have any questions, please provide them via the chat functionality. It should be at the top kind of left-hand side of your Teams meeting. So put any questions you have, and then on the back end of this call, we will have a questions and answers session to answer any questions you may have. Okay. So as we begin, we're going to go through the antitrust compliance guidelines. It is the policy of Reliability First to obey the antitrust laws and to avoid all conduct that unreasonably restrains competition. It is the responsibility of every Reliability First participant to adhere to Reliability First antitrust compliance guidelines, a copy of which is available on the Reliability First website. If there's any questions, please contact me. Okay. So for today's session, the training session, here's the agenda of high-level topics we're going to be going over. As you'll see, on the front end, it'll be more of a refresher, and then on the back end, we'll get into more of the specific IRA inherent risk assessment process, and that includes the entity questionnaires, the risk factor questionnaire and the entity risk profile questionnaire. So we'll start off by going through a review of what Align is and what the IRA Secure Evidence Locker is. So and you'll be hearing us say these terms a lot. So when we say Secure Evidence Locker, we'll be talking about the SEL. And then we'll go into some Align access and roles. Then we'll move into IRA SEL functionality, talk a little bit about help desk tickets, like I said, and then move into the meat of the presentation, the Align Inherent Risk Assessment IRA process. And then the back end, we'll review any training resources that are out there for Align. Okay. So now I'm going to go through a very high level what Align and the SCL is all about. And we understand a lot of the entities out there. You've been in Align for a while. You may already know most of this stuff, but for those brand new entities, this is just kind of an understanding what Align is and what the SCL actually is. Okay. So Align, what it is, it's a common system that the IRO put together, and it really kind of moved all of the compliance monitoring and enforcement business processes to a common standardized platform. So this is when we call the compliance monitoring and enforcement, that's called CMEP in our world. You're going to hear that term, throughout the presentation. But it's really at one point um, before Align had come into play. And Align, like I said, so Align's been probably various pieces of Align's been in production for the last at least 2 years now. But what it is there at one point there was close to 7 different tools that the different regions and NERC were using. We had like CDMS, MK Insight, there CRATs. There's a number of different tools, and we the ERO decided we should have one centralized tool that will help in all our CMAP activities. So we put this together Align, and like I said, a number of the functionalities have been in place for a while now, including the enforcement piece, mitigation, compliance audit, and the inherent risk assessment and compliance oversight plan piece, the planning, I'll call it the compliance planning pieces, have recently been put in practice. Okay. The secure evidence locker, this goes kind of in parallel with Align, but this is what the SCL is it's really a highly secure system to collect the highest sensitive of data information that entities may have. So this includes stuff like CEII data, audit evidence, if there's system one lines, network diagrams, stuff like that. That's highly sensitive. It's like I said, a highly secure tool that when you when entities put information in, only the regions could see it. We can't download it. We can't copy it. We can't take screenshots. It's like I said, a super highly secure system, and Bob Folt will talk about it a little bit later. But it's put in place like I said, to collect uh, the highest of sensitive information that's out there. Okay. So with that, I am going to pass it over to Mr. Bob Folt, and he's going to start off by talking about access and roles, a little more about the secure evidence locker, and then he'll touch on the NERC help desk ticket system. So Bob, take it away.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Thank you, Tony. And as Tony mentioned, my name is Bob Folt, and I'm a principal analyst in the Risk Analysis and Mitigations Group at Reliability First. Many of you may already know me from my work with the NERC registration, periodic data submittals, the old portal CDMS, and from publishing the RF monthly compliance update letters. So welcome to our second training session for Align Inherent Risk Assessments. I'd like to take a few minutes today to review a few important items that everyone should know about already or have been made aware of from our previous Align training sessions. But just in case we have some new Align users on the call today that have not attended previous training, I will briefly go over some key points and direct you to some additional information about ERO portal and Align access and permission roles, which may help you as you prepare to begin using Align to respond to the IRA questions using the new tool. Next slide, Tony, please. Now let's begin by talking about the ERO portal and how it relates to Align. The Align tool itself is going to leverage the ERO portal and the ERO portal accounts to enable users to access Align. The ERO portal serves as a centralized common interface for registered entities to access several ERO portal-based applications such as Align, Midas, CORS, CFR, Portal, GMD, and many more. On this slide, here is some basic information about the ERO portal and the requirement that all users must have an active verified ERO portal account before they can access or use the Align tool. And I know even though we've been using Align for a couple of years now, we still have new people coming online and they want to get access to Align. They don't have an ERO portal account. So we have to kind of help them get that account because you can't do virtually anything anymore without an ERO portal account. So if you currently do not have one or have not registered for an ERO portal account, please navigate to the link indicated on this screen and register for an account. Select the register button, complete the registration form, and submit. Once you have registered for an account and set up multi-factor authentication, we recommend that every new user verify that they can successfully log into the ERO portal and Align. You will want to confirm your credentials work, and you can log in to Align as expected prior to working in Align for the first time. So today I'm not going to walk through the registration verification process step by step, but would recommend you reading the Registered Entity User Access Guide or ERO Portal User Guide and watch the training videos for specific instructions about registering for the ERO Portal, multi-factor authentication, and how to log into Align. This user guide is one of many self-service resources available to registered entities to help them through the ERO portal registration and Align access request processes. Next slide, Tony. Regarding access to Align, this slide points you to where you can find specific information related to different processes required of the registered entity users for them to acquire access to Align. This slide navigates you to specific pages in the user guide related to the following processes: ERO portal registration, multi-factor authentication, ERO portal login process, requesting access to Align, that's for any user, and approving access requests, which is a primary compliance contact task. The registered entity user access guide provides you with the step-by-step instructions, screen prints, and detailed explanations of these processes. Next slide. Now that you have established an ERO portal account, let's briefly talk about the different levels of access and roles a user can have within Align for the registered entity. Access roles in Align are broken down into 3 levels. The first level a user can have is the Align Registered Entity Reader role. This is a read-only access role. An individual granted this role can log into Align and view anything for their registered entity, but is not permitted to enter data, make any changes to or edit data, entity information, or records, nor submit any data. Readers can view records but cannot take any action such as save or save an action for any record. The second level of access is the Align Registered Entity role. This again will give the user the same level of permissions as the reader role to log into the system and see everything for the entity. But with editor access permissions, they will also have the authority to make changes or edit records, update records, and save records. But an editor cannot submit anything in the line to Reliability First for review or processing. The third level of access is the Registered Entity Align user role. This is the highest level of access granted in Align. This user can see everything in Align, can edit, update records, can submit records or data in Align to RF for review and processing. It's important. So this is really the most important role and that a Align user can have. And it's important to note that users only need to be assigned one role specific to their required function. Please do not assign all 3 roles if you are a submitter. Submitter roles trump all other roles, so it's not necessary to grant permissions to all 3 user roles. And at RF, we still see this quite often, where new users will come in and they've been given the read-only and the editor and the submitter roles. And what we found in the past is that sometimes they conflict and they can impact your permissions, your ability to log to get into Align. So we ask really you only need to have one role, pick the right appropriate role for you and register for that. Now, it's also important to note that when a new PCC contact is created in course, the PCC or primary compliance contact are automatically assigned the registered entity Align submitter role when they are assigned the registered entity administrator permissions. And lastly, when an entity user requests access to Align, the PCC or the primary compliance contact is the one who grants the Align account access permissions for the appropriate level of the access required of that user. Now, just one more slide here to demonstrate the process flow used to request, approve, and verify access to Align. Registered entities users request access from the ERO portal account. The primary compliance contact reviews, approves, or denies access using the ERO portal, and the registered entity user verifies access to Align. Please note that any additions or changes made to Align user access roles may take up to 48 hours to take effect in Align. And remember, requesting access to Align is easily done via the ERO portal, and it's a straightforward process to follow using the instructions included in the guide I previously mentioned. Today, we'll not go through those processes step by step, but I have pointed you to the pages in the guide that will provide those instructions. And if you encounter any problems along the way, you can always submit a help desk ticket and we will help you through any issues you encounter. Next slide, please. This next slide, this next portion, we're going to talk a little bit about SEL functionality, the Secure Evidence Locker, and we will provide you with an overview of the locker process and walk you through the steps necessary to successfully upload a documentation into the Secure Evidence Locker. Next slide, please. In this simple diagram, we've illustrated the process a user must take to upload a document to the Secure Evidence Locker. First of all, you've got to collect your evidence and files. Then you need to log into the Secure Evidence Locker, then submit the evidence to the Secure Evidence Locker submission portal, and then the locker will ingest those documents and will need to complete multiple steps to validate the file. As noted on this screen, there's like 4 different steps to validate. And then the locker will inform the user if the file passes or fails each submission. And finally, you'll get a confirmation that the files have been uploaded to the Secure Evidence Locker successfully. Next slide. The Secure Evidence Locker works best when using one of the preferred browsers, Google Chrome, Microsoft Edge, or Microsoft Edge. If you use a different browser, we cannot guarantee it will work or if it will work properly, and you may encounter some problems. So to save a help desk ticket, just use Chrome or Edge. Next slide, please. In this series of slides, we will walk you through the steps necessary to submit a file to this Secure Evidence Locker. The first step is simply to log in to the submission portal, and at the bottom left-hand corner of this screen, you can see a link to the submission portal. Most of you probably have already used this, but it's always good to remind people the proper link to get there. Log into the submission portal using your NERC login credentials. Next slide. Next step is to complete your multi-factor authentication. This slide shows the dual mobile screen to select the authentication method to use. You have 3 options depending on how you set up your dual mobile, but you can send me a push or use the phone, a call me option, or you can enter a passcode. Next slide. Let's talk a little bit about the Secure Evidence Locker file submission. And this slide shows users where to upload the file to the locker by entering the reference ID in the validation field and then submit the file for validation. Next slide. This slide shows where to upload files to the Secure Evidence Locker by entering the reference ID in the validation field and submit the file for validation. Validations. This slide demonstrates the, I think we're on the next slide, Tony. Are we on the next slide? No, I'm sorry, back slide. Thank you. Back, yeah, there you go. This slide demonstrates the Secure Evidence file validation process. Once a reference ID has been entered into the validation box and the user selects the validation button, Align will inform you if the file is valid or not. If the file is validated, the user receives a blue check mark and it tells you have a valid reference ID as noted here on this slide. If the file is not validated, the user receives a red exclamation mark and it states that you have an invalid reference ID. Now on this slide, we're showing it's going over how to upload a single file and to the Secure Evidence Locker. First, click Upload and add the evidence to the Secure Evidence Locker, and do not include any sensitive information in the name of the file. And note the highlighted file types that are not acceptable for the Secure Evidence Locker. You can't use executable files or zip files. Next slide. Next slide just demonstrates that you can upload multiple files to the Secure Evidence Locker. And the next slide. This slide shows the validation of valid reference ID and the ability to submit evidence. And the important item here to note on this slide is the maximum file sizes that you can have to upload into the secure evidence locker. Note the max size file size is represented on the slide. They're limited to 100 megabyte per file, 80 files per submission, and 10 gigabytes in total size as noted in the secure evidence locker. Next slide, please. Once a user selects the submit button, the file is uploaded to the secure evidence locker. The SEL notifies user if the file is uploaded successfully as noted on this slide. Next slide. If the evidence uploaded contains invalid files, you will receive this upload error screen. Note, as I mentioned before, note compressible zip files and executable files cannot be uploaded to the secure evidence locker. Next slide. Now, after a successful or unsuccessful upload of evidence to the locker, users will receive an email with a submission manifest. This manifest will indicate if the files were uploaded successfully or not uploaded. And that's just one example of the email you'll receive. Next slide. Now this slide is a screen print of a manifest. Note the highlighted notation that the file has passed. If the file upload failed, the manifest will simply state fail in the pass fail column as highlighted on this screen. So that pretty much wraps up my discussion of the secure evidence locker. Once again, it's just a very basic tutorial, just a refresher for everybody that may be new to the secure evidence locker. Now, I just want to briefly touch on the NERC help desk tickets. As I mentioned before, you know, if you encounter problems with the locker or with the line, you can submit a help desk ticket. So let's just take a look at the line and ERO SEL help desk support model that is used to support a line and ERO portal tools. And as you may have noted from a previous classes or we've held, NERC uses a tiered approach to the help desk ticket as described on this slide. RF recommends that if you encounter a problem performing a process or action in a line, to first review the training videos or user guides or to troubleshoot the issue and solution. NERC has videos and training guides available to the registered entities that should be able to assist you with resolving any problem you encounter. Always go there first. And that link, there's a link at the top to training@NERC.net. That'll take you to the help desk support. If you're not able to resolve a problem using the self-service options, or there is a system issue that prevents you from accessing the tool or performing an action, please go to the ERO help desk ticketing system and submit a ticket. Once again, that help desk can be accessed at support@NERC.net. And that pretty much wraps up my portion of the training. Now I'll turn over the presentation over to Frank Kapuscinski, and he will gladly provide you with some important and valuable information and instructions pertaining to inherent risk assessment functionality in Align. Take it away, Frank.
Thank you, Bob. Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you're at, everyone. My name is Frank Kapuscinski. I am a principal analyst in the risk analysis and mitigation group at Reliability First. And I'm going to go over the IRA process in Align. Next slide, please. So this process is for any new and existing entities. The process is initiated by RF, and the entity is sent a risk factor questionnaire and an entity risk profile questionnaire and Align to be completed. The PCC, or who they assign, completes the questions in the RFQ and the ERPQ questionnaires. And as in previous, for those that are existing entities here, we used to have a process in MK Insight where we used to do quarterly and annual reviews and updates. And at this time, we are not doing that functionality in Align, but there may be some changes moving forward. Next slide, please. So to begin the IRA process, the entity needs to log in using their credentials in Align. Next slide, please. And then whenever you log in, you will come into this where you have the My Align page. And we are saying for this one, you want to click the drop-down arrow and scroll down to the IRA and COP option there and click on that. Next slide, please. At that point, you will come into this page where you see what is requested of you, and you see the unique ID on the left-hand side highlighted, the label in the labels column, and then over in the questionnaire status, you would see where it has requested. You want to click on the unique ID and under the labels column to pull up the questionnaire that is requested. Click next slide, please. Okay, and here, so this option here is you have the option to export the RFQ and ERPQ questions into a Word document, so you could distribute those to SMEs and collect responses to questions prior than putting any entries into Align. At this time, just for note that this option is not available. There was some issues with it, so it is grayed out at this time. So RF will be providing the copy of the RFQ and ERPQ questions to the entity whenever we send out our initial notification to the PCCs and the ACCs. Next slide, please. So with the so getting into the assignment function, so there's two options when you get into the assignment function. The first option is you could assign it to yourself, and this is the recommended approach that we at RF and within the ERO recommends to do. And this assignment is for the PCC. Option two is you could assign it to a different individual. So the PCC can assign it to a different individual. But just please know that if you use this option, you may end up with multiple sets of questions to two different individuals. And once the assignment is completed, there's no way to delete one of those duplicate questions, which may cause issues or mean that both of those would have to be filled out or three of them, depending on how many assignments you do. So just to note that as an issue. And as we go through these two options, you'll see what we're referring to. Next slide, please. So here, looking at the questions, so under the risk factor questions, you see the multiple subjects under there, and then under the entity risk profile questionnaire, you see the one subject there by your register function. So what you would do in order to get started is you would click on the highlighted area, which is click to assign. Next slide, please. And then here you would get this box. So it defaults, it has the PCC in there already. So if you are assigning it, which is our option one, to yourself, which is the PCC, you would select the check mark there next to you. Under the action, you would do the drop down and click assign and then click update. And this would assign that area which, you know, all of the subjects under the RFQ and the ERPQ and assign those to the PCC. Next slide, please. So under process two, you would still get this same box when you click on the assign, but what you would do then at this point is in the persons box, there's a clip, a paper clip on the right-hand side. You would click on that paper clip. Next slide, please. And then you would come up into this box, which is basically a blank assignee box. You would click on the paper clip again on the right-hand side in the persons box. Next slide, please. And then you would come up with your list of names. These would be all the individuals within your entity who you could do the assignment to. In this instance, like the first one would be who the PCC was. The second one would be the person, maybe another individual, and you may want to select that person. So you would click the checkbox for that individual, and then down in the lower right-hand side, you would click apply for that one. Next slide, please. And then at this point, you would see that for the previous one, we clicked Pete. So now Pete is on your selection list to assign to that RFQ or the ESPQ questionnaire. So you would click on Pete. Once again, under action, you would click assign and then click the update box, and that would assign Pete to that particular questionnaire. Next slide, please. And then just demonstrating what it would look like is, so when you see here in this one, so underneath all the risk factor questionnaires, you would see the first one, which is the impact rating criteria, is assigned to the editor one, who is the PCC. The other two underneath that is assigned to Pete, which we just went through the process to do the assignment to them. And then you would have to do that for all the individual subjects for each one of the risk factor question. And then under the entity risk profile questionnaire, there's just the one option under there that you would need to do the assignment for. Just a note here for these risk factor questionnaires, normally those are 1 to 5 questions each. The entity risk profile questionnaire is roughly about 80 questions there. And once again, they change a little bit according to what your register functions are. Next slide, please. The secure evidence locker is Bob Full was talking about earlier. Just to let you know, under the evidence box there is a reference number that you could use if you need to upload any files for the IRA in accordance with the questionnaire as you're answering those questions. So if you want to upload something like a one-line diagram, you would use this reference ID for the secure evidence locker in order to upload those files. Next slide, please. So once you have done all your assignments, now you're at the point where you need to start completing all the questions for the RFQ and the ERPQ. As you're going through and answering these, so this is what the SIP impact rating criteria looks like, and you can see those are yes or no questions. You have 2 options to do your save. The first option is a save draft, and this will allow you to save your responses and allow those responses to be changed. Meaning, whenever you're in your session, if you're answering question, think you need to maybe get some additional information off of an SME, you may want to do the save draft, get your additional information, then come back in and complete answering the questions. And then once you have completed everything, then you hit the save. And this saves all the responses. And at that point, you cannot go in there and change them. So this would complete the questions for that particular subject option under and for this one here, this is the RFQ, the risk factor questions. Next slide, please. And then here, once you have completed all the questions for each of the risk factor questions under the subjects and the ERPQ, you would see the completed status for each one of those. And then once you're at that point, what you want to do is you want to, under the action tab, you want to move the little toggle switch over to CEA review. So you would just slide that little switch over to the right and then hit the update button in the lower right-hand corner. And then this will move the questionnaire back over to the region within reliability purse, whoever the analyst is working on it, for them to complete their part to complete the IRA process. And I believe that is my last slide. So I'm going to turn it over to Tony now to go over the training resources. Take it away, Tony.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Frank. So like Frank said, I'm going to close it out by talking about some of the great aligned training resources out there. But before I do that, I do want to reiterate one more time. I know Frank said it a number of times, but when making those assignments to questions in Align, please only assign it to yourself as the PCC. You could, like Frank said, you could collect answers from your company, or your SMEs, collect them, but then you go ahead as the PCC, as the assigned, submitter, go in and answer the questions in a line. This will, from experience, it'll save us all of us for the regions and the entities a bunch of time. So thank you in advance. Okay, so from a training perspective, as Mr. Folt had previously noted, there's a wealth of information out there on the NERC training.nerc.net website. There's a number of links here. I'm not going to read through all these, but there's like the 4.5 user guide, that's IRAs and COPs, access guides, SEL portal. So one of my favorite things about this training.nerc.net site is the videos that are out there. I think they're absolutely amazing. They're quick hitters for each like little function, little piece of functionality. There's like maybe 2 or 3 minute quick hitters, and it shows you exactly kind of how to do it, and they're all professionally done. So, um, like we said, like Bob said, like I'm going to reiterate again. If you get to the point where you're in a line and you have a question, training.nerc.net should be your first shop. Go there, see if you can find an answer to a question. Second set, then you could provide a NERC help desk ticket. Give us a call, and we'll definitely be here to help you walk through it. Okay. This next slide, this is really just kind of showing what when you log into that training.nerc.net site, what it looks like. And you'll see the first thing you want to do is select a role. Since you guys are all registered entities, choose the registered entity links. But there's trainings from a CEA, which is the region's NERC. There's a NERC training. So, but go to the registered entity slide. And then from here, this is really just kind of a screenshot of what it looks like. I think this screenshot showing all the videos. Like I said, they have different functionalities. That release 4, there's IRAs and COPs, exactly kind of what assigning assigning and answering risk factor questions, what Frank just went over. So it's all there for you. So like I said, highly encourage everyone. If you have any questions about Align while you're in there, go to this training.nerc.net site. Okay. So at this point, we would like to open it up for any questions you may have. Please remember, if you have a question, use the chat functionality. It's in the top left-hand side of your Teams menu. So we'll pause for a few minutes, see if we get any questions, and then we'll go ahead and answer them.
Hey, Tony, we have a couple questions out there.
Okay, let me get to it. Chat. Okay, so the first question, I'll read it through. Does being an entity admin automatically grant Midas and Coors user permissions? Great question. Bob, I'll let you take that one.
Thanks, Tony. It does not automatically give you Midas permissions. That's got to be set in the ERO portal. The primary compliance contact can do that, or an entity admin. If you're an entity admin, I do believe you get it's submitter permissions automatically. So, but you don't get everything else. So you do have to go in and request those additional permissions for the various other functions that are out there. That don't, we just don't automatically just give blanket permissions to everything if they're an admin.
Awesome. Thank you, Bob. Our next question is, I think it's more, looks like a feedback from Jack, so appreciate it. But he says, regarding multiple assignments, I can attest that Align requires a complete set from one person to be complete to submit to the CEA. So I think, Jack, what you're kind of getting at is you may go through, you may think everything is complete, and you hit that update button and you toggle it over to CEA review, and then you get an error, and then you go back and say, oops, I forgot, there's maybe one question in there that I didn't fully answer. Go back, answer it, hit up, hit the update to make it complete, and then you could submit it to the CEA. So thank you for that
Actually,
feedback, Jack. Or go ahead.
actually, that was with response to wanting to break out the assignment to multiple people. It doesn't matter if you break it out to multiple people. It needs a complete set of responses from one person before it'll take it. Before it'll let you select to click the CEA and then submit. It won't take it if it's broken up among multiple people, because it won't see it as 100% complete.
Oh, thank you for jumping in, and exactly, and that's the kind of the frustrating piece of the functionality. I'll say, is if you assign it to multiple people, like both of those individuals need to complete them, right? Fully answer the questions, and if they don't, you can't submit it, right? And then
Well,
the second, or
it can
go
be
ahead.
assigned to multiple. It can be assigned to multiple people, but one person has to have 100% of the answer. One assigned individual must complete 100% of all of the answers before it'll take it. The other people can have whatever percentage they like.
Right. Awesome. Thank you. And then, like I said, on the very back end, if you happen to have assigned to two people and the two individuals do respond and complete it, then on our side we're seeing two different sets of questions, which could be problematic potentially. So thank you for that, Jack. Appreciate it. The next question is everything submitted via the SCL, for example, evidence for completion of milestones from a mitigation plan, or the evidence for the milestones submitted through Align, where the mitigation plan milestones reside. So, Bob, do you want to take that away, or if not, I could jump in.
Shoot, go ahead.
Sure. Yes. And so this question specifically, it looks like you're talking about mitigation plans. Yes, that mitigation plan, the evidence is submitted through the SCL. Hopefully I answered that question appropriately. I don't see any other questions at this point, but I'll give another minute or so if there's any other questions. Like I said, remember, use the chat functionality at the top left-hand side of your screen. See, Bob or Frank, are you guys seeing any other questions coming through?
No, Tony.
Oh, I'm not seeing any other questions.
Okay. So with that, we're going to give you back a little bit more time today. So I want to, on behalf of Reliability First, we want to thank you all for attending this training. Hopefully it was beneficial. Like we said, I'll reiterate again, there's tons of training resources out there on training, .NERC.net. The one thing I do want to kind of just talk about again is we did record this video today, so we will be posting it on the Reliability First public webpage, so you'll be able to get this for a refresher if need be. The presentation, I'll probably send it out again to everyone on this call, just so you have it, for your reference. So with that, thank you all, and have a great rest of the week. Bye, everyone.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.